This is the Barbados Today afternoon news for Wednesday, March 7. Thank you for joining us. I am Marie-Claire Williams. We begin with news that teachers at Blackman and Gollop Primary School walked off the job this morning over concerns of the presence of cow itch in the area. School was called off for the day by 11:30 this morning. Classes were affected last week over the same concerns, and several parents told Barbados Today that they are concerned about how the matter is being handled so far, as well as the amount of time their children have been losing away from the classroom. In other news this afternoon, Foreign Trade Minister Maxine McClean wants female entrepreneurs to explore broader business opportunities. McClean was addressing this morning's launch of We Export, an initiative by the Caribbean Export Development Agency to develop women-owned businesses. She said far too often women are focused on lifestyle businesses.
Overall, as I reflect on the situation in Barbados, I am confident in saying that there are no legislative or other regulatory constraints facing women in business or seeking to get into business. In fact, women's participation is very evident and contrasts with what obtains in many other jurisdictions. However, where I have been involved in the programs previously mentioned, in most instances, women focused on what I would describe as lifestyle businesses. Put very simply, these are businesses which supplement income or provide little more than a salary or weekly wage. They tend to focus on the local market, infrequently ventured into the export arena. I am very pleased, therefore, that the project We Export, with its plan to deliver around the 4 pillars of access to finance, capacity building, access to markets, and advocacy, will go a long way to empowering women to move outside of their often self-imposed limitations.
Meanwhile, the CEO of Caribbean Export Development Agency, Pamela Cook Hamilton, lamented the lack of access to finance available to women.
The access to finance pillar, as you know, continues to be a challenge for many women. And I know most men in the Caribbean just love to tell us that's not true. Women run everything in the Caribbean, and women, you know, and I hear it all the time. But the truth is, 2-3 years ago, when I walked into a bank to talk about getting a mortgage, I was asked where my husband was. This is not 90s, this is not 60s, Pat, this is 3 years ago. And so it's a problem. There is this, even if it's not written in law, there are certain cultural issues that you continue to face, even if legally it's not allowed. The access to finance. A man can walk into a bank with the same idea as a woman. The likelihood of the man getting it is much higher than the woman getting it.
The majority shareholder of the Insurance Corporation of Barbados Limited could sell its stake. Barbados Today has been reliably informed that several offers are now on the table for the purchase of the former government-owned insurance giant, and its former competitor, Sagicor, is said to be among interested parties. When contacted, the CEO of BF&M Limited, John Wright, confirmed through his communications department that several parties have expressed an interest in the business. The company has been quickly losing market share over the past 2 years. Net income in 2016 was $7.5 million compared to $10.8 million the previous year.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We're back with news from the region. An opposition senator in Trinidad is calling for parliamentary autonomy, including that of its financials, and he has tabled a private motion in the Senate which is aimed at pushing that agenda. We get more in this report from TV6 News.
Opposition Senator Wade Mark believes that Parliament should be given its own allocation in the budget, adding that the Tobago House of Assembly currently has more power than TNT's Parliament. He notes that Parliament is an independent body and is not inferior to the executive. However, Mark claims that Parliament's administrative staff is intensely interrogated by the Ministry of Finance before it can acquire items which fall under expenditure. But more than that, Mark feels there is resistance from the government in enabling the reform.
This is the third effort in almost 3 years to get this government to support a private member's motion that would give the Parliament greater strength in terms of its democracy.
The Houses of Parliament Service Authority Bill 2014 was drafted for this purpose, and Mark is calling on the government to table the bill.
Within, let's say, 30, maybe under 60 days, Mr. Vice President, and have that bill referred immediately to a joint select committee, so that that joint select committee can meet and treat and consider and report within the shortest possible time frame.
On the international scene, Britain says investigators now know more about a mystery substance that has struck down a Russian double agent and his daughter in the English city of Salisbury. We get the details in this Reuters report.
The collapse of a former Russian double agent in a quiet English town and the absence of many facts around why Sergei Skripal and his daughter are critically ill has raised questions about whether the pair was singled out. Critics or enemies of Moscow have been victims of poisoning, or at least suspected it in the past. During the Cold War, Gorgy Markov, a Bulgarian dissident, was killed in London with a poison-tipped umbrella. This reenactment of the moment portrays Markov waiting for a bus when he felt a sharp sting in his thigh. A stranger fumbled behind him with an umbrella before walking away. Markov later died of what's believed to be ricin poisoning. Dissidents accused the Soviet KGB of being behind the killing. Ex-KGB agent Alexander Litvinenko died after drinking green tea laced with radioactive polonium-210 at London's Millennium Hotel. A British inquiry concluded in 2016, 10 years after his death, that Russian President Vladimir Putin probably approved the killing. The Kremlin has denied any involvement. An outspoken critic of Putin, Litvinenko fled Russia for Britain 6 years to the day before he was poisoned. In 2004, Viktor Yushchenko was campaigning on a pro-Western ticket for Ukraine's presidency. In the lead-up to the election, he was poisoned with 1,000 times more dioxin than is normally present in the human body, disfiguring his face and limbs. Yushchenko subsequently won the presidency in a rerun poll. He says he was poisoned while having dinner outside Kiev with officials from the Ukrainian security services. Russia denied any involvement.
And finally, South Korean envoys will bring a private message to the United States from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un when they meet in Washington this week. They were given the undisclosed message on Monday when they held talks with Kim in Pyongyang. It is not clear whether they will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. Previous talks between the U.S. and North Korea have been unsuccessful. And that's news this afternoon. Remember, you can get more on our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and on Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also find us on Mix 96.9 FM. I am Marie Claire Williams. Good afternoon.